Welcome to the Firebelly Social Show. We're focused on talking to food and beverage brands that are on a mission to make the world better.
Hey, Duncan here, and welcome to another episode of the Firebelly Social Show. It's a different kind of show where we showcase, highlight, shine our light on founders and leaders of mission-driven food and beverage brands. And, if you know any, they're a very particular bunch. They're passionate, they're persnickety, they're driven, they want to make the world better. So I'm so happy to present the show to you. Today's show is sponsored by Firebelly Marketing. If you'd like to have more authentic connections with your customers, go to firebellymarketing.com to talk social media marketing. And I'm so excited about today's guest. Today's guest is really bringing innovation to the world. It's a mission-driven company. And not only that, but talk about a dramatic crossover from a whole different career. And most importantly, what I resonated with, I just recently met her at the Sweets and Snacks show. I really resonated with the fact that is not willing to separate her story from her products. And so with no further ado, welcome Mika from Issei. So happy to have you here.
Hi, Duncan. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be on the show. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mika, we just met a couple of weeks ago at the Sweets and Snacks show, and it was a dramatic first meeting.
To say the least.
Yeah, and let's get into it, and I think people will figure out why it was dramatic. Let's start with, what does Issei mean?
So Issei means first generation Japanese immigrants in the US. And I named my company this big grand name because I wanted to celebrate the heritage of my culture and my experience as an immigrant, but also the heritage of all the immigrants who come to this country with hopes and dreams of a better future. And a lot of the memories and the stories that we share is through food. So it's, food is this international universal language of our history and our customs and our backgrounds and our heritage. So this is why it's so important to me. It's a very personal project.
I mean, and here's the thing, mochis and mochi gummies, it is real innovation. And from the moment you started, people were interested.
Yes, I was very, very lucky, very fortunate. So mochi is a traditional Japanese cake. It's just pounded rice with water. It's very simple. It's been around for thousands of years, actually. And it's one of the oldest snacks in Asia. But we eat it as a cake. It's usually a mochi cake wrapped around red bean paste. And it's considered a sacred food. We eat it during New Year. We pound it together as community. And during the day, we eat it with green tea. We sip it, we take time. And what I did was an innovation because I adapted it to the lifestyle here in the US. I started to make these because my kids love chewy candy, Sour Patch, gummy worms, all kinds of chewy snacks. And I was always dismayed by how much artificial colors and flavors and other junk was in there. And it's gelatin based. Traditional gummies are gelatin, which is pork derived. So I started to bake these sheets of mochi cakes in my house and cut them into little pieces and dry them out. And I started to give it to my kids, and they love them. And I infused it with like 30 different flavors, Asian flavors and world flavors. And, my kids were so excited. They brought it to school. Their friends loved them and the parents loved them. And that's really how it started. So, innovation comes when you're not necessarily trying to innovate. You're just doing it differently. And so it resonated, and we were really lucky that people already knew what mochi was. So it wasn't like I had to educate people on what it was. They knew the mochi ice creams. They knew the benefits. It's clean label. It's usually a better for you snack. So it did resonate, and we've had a great year and a half since launch.
And there's so many things to say. I'll try to be sort of intuitive and organized in my thinking, because I'm so excited. But before we talk about innovation and and gelatin, and new innovation that you've done and awards and all of that stuff. We'll just stay on that story because I think um, you're bringing maybe what you set out to do was to bring connection, right? And to meet a need with your own kids. You wanted them to connect with their culture through a snack, right? And we eat nostalgia sometimes, right? It's like we feel nostalgic and want to eat something, right?
Mm.
And so that was, I remember you telling me when we met that you used to drive 30 miles on the weekends to get snacks.
Yes. So, I mean, I moved to the US when I was 8, and I moved to Ridgewood, New Jersey, where it was, no Asians and definitely no Asian supermarkets. So we had to drive to Fort Lee, which took about, 45 minutes. And that's where we would get the rice. My mom would always need to get the Japanese short grain rice and seaweed and snacks. And um, anything that was not sort of European was found on the ethnic aisle, right? In the general supermarket. And there you had crammed together the Mexican taco shells and some food from Germany and crackers from the UK, and then maybe some ramen from Japan. So that's really all I grew up with. So to be able to share what I grew up with in Japan before moving here with my kids and having them be proud of it, um, that's definitely the whole reason behind doing what I'm doing.
And not to mention the fact that, as you said, it's plant-based and it's gluten-free. So we'll go back to the story. So you're driving 30 miles, whenever. And I don't think the grocery situation has actually changed. I think that maybe those aisles have a little bit more organized. There's some global flavors, in the American palate now. But I think the reality is that the real difference is now we have stores that are selling that merchandise, like whether it's you know, um, a South Asian grocery store, or East Asian grocery store, whatever it is, it's like we can actually find that. And I'm thankful because there's so many cultures that still don't have that. So that hasn't really changed. But what's amazing now is that with Americans wanting to try different things and are more open to that, that opens up the opportunity for us to take our products to them. But also, I think there's a big market of East Asian people that want healthier snacks.
Absolutely. I mean, so mochi is gluten free. It's vegan. It's free of all the seven, major allergens: sesame, nuts, soy, dairy. Not by trying to be. It just is. It's just rice and tapioca. My product is made with rice and tapioca, and very simple ingredients. Um, and it's true that the landscape of supermarkets, they haven't changed that much. But the biggest, I think, revolution for me is that I'm sitting next to the other candies. I'm sitting next to the Smart Sweets and the gummy bears and the jelly beans as a valid candy from a different heritage, right? So I think that's something that I'm incredibly proud of. And, candy, chewy candy, has been dominated by European tradition. So gelatin you know, um, was invented in Germany and pectin in France. And it's great, it's wonderful, but I think it's time to explore other cultures. And you can get chewiness from other ingredients that weren't considered worthy, maybe. And you can explore other flavors that were not included in the range of flavors. You can go beyond the typical strawberries and the raspberries and the bananas. There's so many lychee, yuzu, ume. There's so many different flavors from across the world. There's horchata. There's you know um, orange blossom, rose petals. There's so much that you can explore, and I think it's not just the call for diversity and inclusion. It's not just for the minorities. I think more than anything, it makes everybody's life better. I can say that the world is better because people know ramen, or they know karaoke, or they have tacos. It's not just for the Japanese or for the Mexicans. It makes everybody's life better and richer, right? So it's really about making the world a better place, and by doing your part to really try to foster that dialogue with different ingredients, different flavors, different heritage.
And I think that the piece that was so inspiring to me is that, as first generation as well, and with second generation son, it's like you really have to think about, okay, I understand that America is traditionally about, what's the word I'm looking for? Assimilation, right? But assimilation also means that you reject or you downplay your other values, right? And I think that that's what makes, places like California or Miami or San Antonio, or DC so amazing, because it isn't this sort of like complete assimilation. It's a integration of, hey, I know who I am, I know where I came from, and that also allows me to know where I'm going, and I'm doing it in an American context.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This rise of cultural pride, I think it's really phenomenal. It's not something that I grew up with here. But also in the general mainstream, that the level of acceptance and openness, the emails that I get from people from Texas and, middle America who I didn't expect to be open to this idea of mochi candies or rice-based snacks. It's beautiful, and that's really what it's about. It's about opening the boundaries of what we think something is and offering something new.
And I think the piece that was very evident at the show was that there was a genuine buzz around your presence at the show. There were people were waiting in line, people were talking about it, and I think that's super cool, especially being a founder and being, what's the word I'm looking for? Understanding firsthand the ups and downs of founder life. It's like, to experience that in the marketplace is pretty amazing, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, it was the Sweets and Snack Show. It was amazing, for us to get the most innovative new snack award of the year as a small business. And, we got the award for chocolate covered mochi gummies. And to think that people really get it, to think that the jury, I think it was 45 people on the jury, and they're all candy buyers. They're the buyers of Walgreens and, KeHE, and to think that they're open to this new idea is really moving, right? Like you said, when you start, I don't know, I'm not from the food industry. I was just starting because I really wanted to do something for my kids and of the generation, and for minority kids, and for them to be proud of their culture. So I wasn't thinking about the industry or about, I was just thinking, I have to make this work. I have to make it shelf stable. I have to make sure it's clean label. And get on the shelf somewhere. And I was thinking, if I could get into one store, that would be amazing. And today, a year and a half out, we're in 2,000 stores. It's just mind-boggling. So yeah, I wasn't expecting any of this, and I'm so grateful for every part of it. And I think every time I say the word Issei, it's a foreign word. It gives me the opportunity to talk about, what is that word? Why does it have meaning for me? Why is it important to me and for, I think, all of us, right? About community, about immigrants, about heritage, acceptance, inclusion. I think, as I said before, I think it makes all of us better.
I mean, it's I was 20 feet away from you when you won the award. I mean, what an award to win. I mean, there's absolutely thousands and thousands and thousands of companies there, from all over the world, people sending everything they've got and more at the show. And you won, and you jumped up, and you were just, I think, astonished and overcome at the same time. And it was just when I was just laughing. I was like, oh my God, look at that. That's just so great. So I
It
think
was a total shock. I was just about to leave, actually, because they had gone through the categories. And I was like, oh, what a nice show. And I was about to leave, and they called out our name, and I couldn't believe it. I mean, I sat in my seat for a minute, not understanding. And I'm sure you saw, I didn't know where I was going. I didn't expect to get on the stage.
yeah,
So,
no, it's an incredible moment, and it was so cool to see it. And I think that I wanted to dwell on it because I've interviewed so many founders now, and it's founder life is not easy. It's just not easy. It doesn't matter whatever industry you're in, but certainly food and beverage and CPG, very difficult, especially right now. And so to see you win like that and your team around you, that was really great. And by the way, congratulations. There's a whole lot of other awards too. There's a whole lot of other awards, and I think I was reading the article in Inc. magazine where you're in the female founder 250 circle. Is that the right way to put it?
Yes, I mean the Inc. magazine, it's insane. They have this female founder issue every year, and it's a really incredible issue where they feature female founders and businesswomen and leaders, and they put me on the cover
I mean,
with
it's
incredible women.
yeah.
And they put me at number two. I mean, talk about it's complete insanity. I still don't understand.
I mean, it's. I think it's amazing, and I think that who are some of the other people? Morgan McLaughlin, Katy Perry. What's up,
Yeah.
Katy Perry?
Yeah.
Michelle Zayton, Kirsten Gaines, and so many others. And yeah, I mean, I think that's it's very encouraging. I think, and it's a pure reflection, of what you're doing. I think that that is the piece that is most important to me. I give a shout out to the lady I was mentioning to you at the show, Asma Khan, who is on a similar trajectory to change the world and like not abandon culture or storytelling and fighting for women everywhere too. She's become an activist. She was named Times 100 most influential women, and I'm going to connect you guys. But let's talk a little bit about the company. What are your what's the fuel for so much innovation?
What a great question. What's the fuel? I think, I've always been very curious about trying new things, trying new ideas. And my background is in diplomacy and tech. And I've been fortunate enough to be surrounded by people who didn't try to shun creativity, and my parents too. So I would always come up with new ideas. Everybody has crazy ideas, but it's really about trying to make something come to life. And I was lucky, throughout my career with the United Nations, I was lucky enough to have bosses and team members who helped me implement crazy ideas that you usually wouldn't do in that context. So, I love food. I try all kinds of things, and I think anybody who's curious, like, oh, why don't we cover that in peanut butter? Or why don't we cover that in chocolate? Or why don't we try to make this harder? Why don't we freeze it? It's a very simple, everyday curiosity that fuels what we're doing with the mochi gummies. And, it's still a process. We're still trying to make our products better and better every day. We're still working with food scientists, and you can always make anything better. And just a pipeline of innovation. The difficulty is when you're doing something new, nobody has produced it or created it on a mass scale. So it's easy to do in your kitchen in terms of proof of concept, but really trying to mass produce it and finding equipment and people willing to try, that's really the challenge.
And speaking of which, I wanted to revisit that story that was in Inc. magazine about you were you had received an order, you were trying to fulfill the order, and everyone was turning you down. Nobody wanted to work with you. And I mean, what an opposite problem that most people have, which is, hey, yeah, I'm going to work with you, and I can't sell the shit out of this, right? Nobody's buying it. Nobody's interested in talking to me. And then you find someone, and it's $12,000 a day and you have to still get there. You got to bring all the ingredients and do all the setup work and do all that. And the machine breaks and your food scientist quits. And I was like, I got to ask her this question. So then how do you keep going at that moment?
Yeah, I mean it's hard. We had to go back and try to redo it the following week. It still didn't work. We had to find another way, and we ended up not being able to use any of the equipment that any of the co-manufacturers had. We ended up hand baking, hand slabbing like caramel, and hand cutting 3,000 pounds of mochi for our first order. It took 3 months, 2.5 months. And it took, 6 people in the factory because nobody had the equipment. But so when you come up with those kinds of situations where you're bleeding money and you have this, clicking time bomb because you have to deliver because you were lucky enough to get a deal. And this is, this this is a dream problem to have, I guess. But when you're in it doesn't feel like a dream. You're really stressed. It feels like a real nightmare. And again, you're just really panicking actually at that point. And we were. And luckily we got through it. And I think, for any innovation or any anybody trying to do something new. You just have to tackle one problem at a time. I mean, that's like my tagline, like one battle at a time, because there's all these, it's an onslaught of constant issues. You don't have the right pickup driver picking up your delivery. You don't have the right boxes. The measurements were wrong, or the right ingredients didn't come in. The flavors are off. I mean, it's millions of problems. Everything that can go wrong will go wrong at the same time, usually. So, so like before I met you at the show, two people who were supposed to come and help us set up, they pulled out last minute. And we had to, with Ashley, my assistant, we had to, lug like 800 pounds of gear by ourselves, set up on our hands and knees, go to Home Depot, get the vinyl flooring, go to IKEA because our lights broke, our trays. I mean, so going back to the initial, testing in Vermont, it was devastating. You go there with all these hopes like, oh my God, it's going to work. It's going to work. And that comes after probably 9 months of trial and testing in other places, and none of it worked. And so you go there and you get there and everybody is kind of dismissive because they don't really understand what you're trying to do. It's very frustrating. But I think, when you overcome those battles, that's when you become, this you emerge as a warrior and you're there to defend your company and defend your product because you put the time and the blood and the tears and the sweat into it. I think I can safely say that me and my team, we know this product more than anybody else on the planet. We can tell you about the chemistry and the temperature and the humidity level and the pH balance. And I think that it just makes you stronger.
I mean, that is such a beautiful point because you don't hear that enough about defending, right? You just don't. It's all about, hey, find some white space, get a product. It's not just, but that's usually the story, right? And get a product, make sure that it's meeting a need, and then start scaling it. But what about defending the idea? There's no one talks about that. You don't see that on LinkedIn or anywhere else. It's like, and that's a really important job of a leader, is to protect the team, to protect the vision, protect the idea, protect the culture, and defend it. Because people, as you said, there's so many. What's the word? Not naysayers, but non-believers, cynics. It's like, why? And this doesn't exist. It's never been done before, or why should I do that? It has been done before. And I love the fact that you said defend. Now let's talk a little bit about, I hope Shetal, your husband, Shetal
Yes.
Hassan, and a great collaborator. I wonder, as I was looking through the things that have been written about you, I was like, I think I found something that no one's asked you, which is, what's it like working with your husband on all this kind of stuff? And you're the face of the company.
Yeah, it's so interesting because it wasn't the plan. My husband works for the World Bank full time, worked for the World Bank until about a month and a half ago. And he was helping me with all the projections, the financials, the accounting, and everything that I'm very bad at. The CFO role. But beyond it, he was helping me with all the tests and the R&D and the operations and ingredient sourcing. And I was by myself for a year. And it's untenable. It really, I wasn't sleeping. I'm still not sleeping a lot, but, trying to do everything at once. And he was, my biggest ally, and he knew all aspects of what I was trying to do. So we had to kind of make a decision. Are we going to do this full on as a family? I think in order to fill the role of what he's doing the work of like 5 people. I would have to hire 5 people to do the work that he's doing. So I thought, you know what? Let's hire him. And he can do so much more than if I just, hired a CFO. But it's been great. Of course we have our ups and downs, and we're still working from home. Our house looks like a warehouse. We've been trying to get, an office space and a warehouse production space, but we've been turned down. Talk about struggles. We've been turned down by, 2, 3 different facilities because we're too young, and they don't think, they see the growth, but they don't think it's sustainable or whatever. We can't get it. We can't get a space. So we're still crammed into our house with, interns and people coming to help us. We're still doing online shipping. We're doing pick and pack. We're doing Amazon. It's crazy. But so it's great to have my husband and the family behind what I'm doing.
That is amazing. Family business. That's amazing. Now let me ask you this about, as a trailblazing, woman of color, and this is not your first time to be a trailblazer. This is like a second time. You've done a whole other career. And what do you say, to yourself and people like you a year ago, right? They're early, or maybe they're not early into their journey. Like maybe they have a few years into their journey. There's always challenges, and shit goes wrong and breaks. What do you say to them?
I think that the biggest thing for me is to not be discouraged and to build this level of resistance and resilience, because people are going to throw so much at you, and you're dealing with just trying to survive and hopefully thrive. But it's problems that you wouldn't even expect. And I've seen it, I've been in the music business, I've been in diplomacy, and I've seen people go through a similar trajectory. But it's really about not being discouraged, not feeling like you should give up. Because I think as a founder or anybody doing anything on their own, it's a daily struggle, right? It's you have an existential question every single day. Like, am I doing the right thing? What have I done? Is this insane? I've, taken a mortgage on my house and gambled the future of my kids. Like, what am I doing? And it comes and goes every day. But you just have to stick to your guns and think, this is something I can build. This is something I can do. Other people have done it. Why can't I do it? So this question of being resistant and being like, why not me? Why can't I do it?
That's amazing. Why not me? And not getting discouraged. I mean, and knowing that perhaps there's going to be tomorrow is going to be, as Buddha says, tomorrow is going to be a new day, right? So I think that. Let me ask you this now. You've been a producer and you're a technophile. How does the past, being a producer of a film and being in the music industry and advising tech companies, how does that all? It's so different than CPG, right?
It is. I mean, it's different, but it's not. It's really interesting. And I think for anybody pivoting in their careers, or how I always thought, how are you expected to know what you want to do for the rest of your life when you're in your 20s? The world is so big, and there's so many things that you can be fulfilled with. So I think it is different. CPG, there's so much I don't know. I didn't even know what a SKU meant. I didn't know how to make a barcode. Literally, I'm not afraid to ask questions, but I think there is a level of abilities that you can transfer. So if you've excelled and you've gotten yourself to a certain level of excellence in one field, those skills of hard work, tenacity, asking the dumb questions, taking a risk, getting a team together, pitching an idea and gaining momentum and building excitement, that's something that you can transfer, whether you're in the music business or diplomacy or business or CPG. And the similar types of characteristics in the music business, you've got hangers on, you've got the managers who got you your first album deal, who claims that they, own your life. You've got, incredible business executives. I mean, it's like that. And I have to say, in CPG, it's an incredible community of very warm, supportive people. I haven't met a single buyer who's been nasty, like I've seen in politics or tech especially. In other businesses, people can be really nasty, right? Very dismissive. I've never met anybody who's been dismissive about my product. Never. And it's true, we're very young, we're a year and a half old, but it's a completely new idea. Everybody's been very curious. Maybe they haven't been over the moon, but they've been very supportive. So that's a revelation. So, your question of how did you, why all the different jobs and the careers?
No, not why. I think it's awesome. I was asking, like, what's the takeaway, and you answered it. I mean, no.
Yeah, and also what's driven that is my curiosity. I'm curious about so many things. And I think music and diplomacy, especially my work with UNESCO, is finding vehicles for bridging cultures. So how do you bridge cultures? What do you use? Is it music? You can do it through education. You can do it through science. And food is the ultimate vehicle for intercultural dialogue, right? You break bread with somebody and you're automatically in a different kind of relationship. And if
Absolutely.
you could do that, if that vehicle is a food that you grew up with that maybe others don't know, like that's the ultimate ambassador for peace, actually.
Yeah. I mean, it
That,
is. My friend Joe Buskovich says he has a restaurant called Yachts, and it's an incredible Cajun food. People go to New Orleans and say it isn't as good as his, and but he says feeding someone in any way, shape, or form is one of the most intimate things you can do because they put the food inside their body, right? They become one with the food,
yeah.
and if it's common and there's a story around it and there's meaning around it, I mean, I think that's just such a beautiful point about. Did you say cultural connection, right?
Yeah, cultural connection, intercultural dialogue. Um,
I'm gonna write that down. Cultural. I mean, I think it's beautiful. Now, let me ask you this: what are you super excited about? Is there something happening in the next little while that people need to know about?
Thank you for asking. Well, we're so excited to launch it with Albertsons, 350 Albertsons stores. It's huge. It's amazing with an amazing team. Um, we also launched with Walmart. So these are, huge mass market channels that we're really excited to launch with, especially for AAPI month. It coincided with this month, so it was really an incredible opportunity. We're launching the Rainbow Pack, which is an assorted box, and we'll be launching more flavors and a whole pipeline of innovation. So I'm really excited about what's coming, and I'm grateful to you, Duncan. I mean, meeting you it was really, really a highlight of the expo and so profound, and when I talked about Issei and what it meant and what
I
the
broke
mission was,
down.
and the fact that you got it, and that you understand that the depth of what that means and what it means to people like us, right? And how we carry so much in terms of the struggle and the pain and the difficulty of being an immigrant, and how it can also be our strength, and how it could be so beautiful, and how we can use vehicles like food to share it. So thank you for seeing that, Duncan.
Oh, it really was an amazing moment. um, so before I lose it again, I'm going to go back to the signature pack. So it's going to be strawberry, mango, vanilla, tangerine, sour, watermelon, and yuzu. And for people that have never had yuzu, how would you describe it?
So yuzu is such an exciting fruit. It actually comes from my mother's homeland, which is Kochi, Japan. It's a beautiful mix of lime and lemon and maybe a little bit of tangerine. It's a very, very potent kind of citrus fruit. So it's a very unique Japanese fruit, Asian fruit.
That's really amazing. And people can buy the rainbow pack online.
Yes, online and on Amazon. We'll be launching it in retailers. Um,
That's
and
so
some new exciting flavors. We'll be launching peach in July. So that's very exciting in the middle of the summer. And other sort of merch. There's gold bags, the whole gold bag series that you saw, that people are kind of very enthusiastic about.
they are. I was.
So we'll be launching a whole bunch of things.
That's so cool. A couple other things, like just before we close out, it must be such a balancing act because you are a founder, you're a leader, you're a mom, you're an artist. How do you keep it all together? Or is that too big a question?
No, not at all. I mean, I try my best to balance everything, but you can't be the perfect everything, right? Um, I think being a mom is the most important part of it, and I try to cook every day from scratch for my kids. But definitely, I think they're seeing the struggles and they're seeing my anxiety level. Um, how do I hold it together? Just just, keeping the eye on the vision and the mission, and just trying to do your best. And it's not easy, because now there's competitors saying things about you, copying you. At the expo, there was our first copycat came out. It's very, very difficult when you've put your everything into it, and you see somebody just kind of swipe the idea. So holding it together just means really just plugging forward and not being discouraged, and trying to make the most beautiful product that I'm proud of and that my kids can be proud of. And I feel like if it's good enough for me and my kids, people are going to like it somewhere.
I mean, that's really a wonderful, I'm laughing because, as you know, I have been, in the incubator as Brown Warrior, my tea company. And I know my wife likes it, but I'm 100% sure my son doesn't like it, but he's also a kid. So kids don't usually like esoteric tea, but that is a wonderful litmus test for CPG founders. Like, is it good enough for your family? And I mean, I think it's interesting how I want to just come back to the new day. It's a new day. It's going to be a new day. And so I think that if we approach life like that, hey, it's going to be a new day. I'm going to make something better every single day. And thank you for making the world better. Thank you for being so courageous.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Duncan. I'm so grateful to you.
Well, you've been listening to another episode of the Firebelly Show. Maybe this was the first episode. I kept it together. I was about to cry, but one of the more emotional episodes of the Firebelly Social Show, where we shine our light on founders of mission-driven food and beverage brands. And what a great opportunity to talk to Mika Shino from Issei. And so please check the product out, mochigummies.com. Buy it on her website, please. You can buy it in the store, but buy it on her website if possible. And this is brought to you by Firebelly Marketing, where we create authentic social connections for our clients. Go to firebellymarketing.com. Thank you for listening. Mika, thank you again. And everyone else, we'll see you on the flip side.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Firebelly Social Show. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.